So with that being established, which one can artfully get the person more freedom? Bitcoin. Which style has proven to be the best over time? And that is, drum roll, dollar cost averaging. On average, no pun intended, dollar cost averaging, especially during the bear cycle of Bitcoin, statistically makes the person wealthier at the end of the 4-year cycle, makes the person have more Bitcoin, guaranteed to have more Bitcoin at the end of the 4-year cycle. Now, lump sum investing has its benefits as well. Lump sum comes into play when you have more than you are weekly dedicating to Bitcoin. You get a payment from someone that owed you money, and you don't need this to live your life on a day-to-day basis. You want that in Bitcoin. This person finally paid their debt to you. You want that in Bitcoin. What's better to do? Dollar cost average it in or dump it in? Studies have shown dumping the lump sum in wins, in that case, over dollar cost averaging. That studies have proven that you wind up better off dumping it all in one moment, one time, one price, one day, one instant. In, and you're done. Now, some might be saying, well, Oliver, this sort of goes against what you just said. You just said that dollar cost averaging statistically shows that the person at the end of 4 years consistently will always have more Bitcoin. Then how can lump summing in at one price beat that if you just said dollar cost averaging is superior? Well, you see, dollar cost averaging is the best when you are using a percentage of your mined dollars, your mined fiat, to go in weekly. That is the approach. Lump summing is better when you have more than that weekly amount. So what I mean is this. There are some people that say, I don't want to do weekly, Oliver. I'm going to save up my dollars for the next several months and then lump sum in. No, that is what is inferior to doing it every week. So let's say, for instance, you have two people here. You got two people. Both are going to put $100 a week of their income into Bitcoin. I mean, both of them are going to put let's just say $2,000 into Bitcoin. Both of them are going to put $2,000 into Bitcoin. One of them is going to put the $2,000 in as they earn an income, and they're going to put it in $100 a week at a time. As they make income, they put $100 a week at a time. That's Bitcoiner number one. Bitcoiner number two says, I'm going to take the $100 and save it in my checking account or in my savings account or in my money market account. I'm going to save the $100 up every single week until I get $2,000. And when I have $2,000, I'm going to lump sum in. No. That does not beat the Bitcoiner 2 will wind up with less statistically than Bitcoiner 1, who says, no, I'm doing it every single week. I'm not going to wait for my cash levels to get hefty and then put the hefty amount in. No. So dollar cost averaging that $2,000 in as you're earning it will statistically outperform the one that's going to save up their dollars first until they have a decent $2,000 to lump sum in. No. So in those two instances, the dollar cost averager wins. When does the lump sum investor win? The lump sum investor wins this way. They get this lump sum all of a sudden, okay? They get this lump sum all of a sudden. There are two, let's go back to the example. Bitcoiner 1 and Bitcoiner 2, they get a lump sum of $2,000 at the same time. Bitcoiner 1 decides that I'm going to lump sum the $2,000 in. I wasn't expecting this $2,000. I don't need it. All right. I'm going to just drop it into Bitcoin right now, today. Boom, smash buy. That's Bitcoiner 1. Bitcoiner 2 got a $2,000 unexpected lump sum too. Bitcoiner 2 also wants the $2,000 in, but he's concerned with the price volatility. So he says, I'm going to actually ease the $2,000 in $100 a week at a time. No, the lump sum Bitcoiner in that instance statistically wins. All right. So I want you to understand, you have to, I don't want you to get confused. It's somewhat similar, but the scenarios are quite different. If you're sitting on cash that you intend to deploy, but you're trying to ease it in, that will not over time get you more Bitcoin than dumping the whole amount now. Doesn't matter now. Okay? But dollar cost averaging wins if you're earning weekly and you're putting in weekly versus earning weekly, saving up, and then putting in a lump sum after you've saved up. The dollar cost averager wins in that scenario. All right. So lump sum has its specialty. It is king of extra lump sum cash that I have available now. I'm not breaking this up. I'm not easing in. I'm a Bitcoiner. Bitcoin is freedom. I don't want freedom in pieces. I want it all now. Boom, all in. But if I'm going to earn dollars every week, I'm going to get some Bitcoin every week. That's the winner there. All right. Now, the last one is timing. I get this all the time. Well, Oliver, what about me trying to get more Bitcoin by coming out of it when it's high and getting back into it when it's low? Won't I wind up beating the dollar cost averager who never gets out, who just keeps every single week buying? So understand what I'm saying when I say timing bottoms and tops. The timer says, I'm going to buy into Bitcoin. I'm going to dollar cost average for a while. I'm even going to lump sum for a while, but I'm going to stop dollar cost averaging when it's high. I'm going to stop lump summing in when I get an unexpected lump sum amount. I'm not putting that in when it's high. I'm not dollar cost averaging when it's high. If I get lump sum cash, it stays cash. My earnings every week stays cash now because I believe Bitcoin is high. I'm now going to sell what I dollar cost averaged in the past, what I lump summed in the past. I'm going to sell that or sell a portion of it. I'm going to wait for Bitcoin to drop to start my dollar cost averaging and lump summing in again. I'm going to do it in phases like a trader. Now, I've been a trader for 43 years of my life, guys. This is the only thing I've ever done with my entire life is trade. I started very young and I still trade to this very day. I don't trade Bitcoin. I trade everything else for Bitcoin. All right. Now, how does this perform? Well, it forms the timing tops and bottoms to start dollar cost averaging at the bottom again and to sell out of it at the top and repeat when it falls. And this is the number one strategy of all. This timing beats all strategies in your dreams. That's right. You are the star of your dream. You are the best timer on planet Earth in your dreams. Do you understand? So when you're sleeping and you're the main character and you're having a dream as a Bitcoiner in your dream, that is when timing tops and bottoms and pulling this off like you're a freaking master works better than anything else out there. But when you freaking wake up from your dream in the morning with the crust between your eyes, when you wake up to freaking reality, this is bullshit. You will do the worst with that strategy. Not only will you wind up with far less Bitcoin than the other two forms, all right? Not only will you wind up with less, you are highly likely to wind up with none. This is the worst approach of all in real life. It's the best approach when you're dreaming. It's the best approach if you're writing a script for a freaking Disney movie. But it isn't, and you're the main character in the Disney movie called Bitcoin Timer. All right. It's great then. Dreams and writing Disney movie scripts. But in real life, this doesn't work. It sounds great. It sounds logical, even. Buy low, sell high, Oliver. And now listen, not in this life, not on this planet. Now listen, I cannot speak for other planets. I don't know how other people on other planets, other species will perform with the timing approach of Bitcoin. Maybe they have some superior insight. I have yet to do intergalactic travel, but I will tell you this. I am as certain as night follows the day that you try to time your way by buying and selling to a bigger stack than the lump summer and the DCAer. I am telling you, you will be left so far in the freaking dust that you are highly likely to get so dejected, so depressed, and so disappointed that you leave Bitcoin forever. It will be out to eliminate you. You see, we tend to, and this is coming from a 4-decade experienced trader. There are not many people in this world who can time markets and trade better than me. I'm sorry if that sounds egotistical. I'm sorry. The truth is the truth. And I won't even do that. I have done the studies for you guys. I have looked at over 1,000 cases. I've gone through every forum there is, all the way back to 15 years. I've looked at I've tried to find every single case of a timer. I've looked at everyone who had thousands of Bitcoin, and over 95% of them are not in Bitcoin today. Why? Because they sold. They tried to time it. They felt it was too high. They felt that they'd gone through a crash before, and they're like, I'm not going through a crash the next time. I'm going to let the crash, I'm going to sell out on the rally. I'm going to let the crash happen. And when the crash happens, I'm going to go back in, and this is better for me. No, they are all gone. They all have less Bitcoin than you do today. Most of them are not even in Bitcoin anymore because they tried to do this. You are the star of your own movie in your own mind. But when it comes to reality, you can't do this. And there are reasons why you can't do this, guys. Because first of all, Bitcoin is an 80 vol asset. Do you understand what an 80 vol asset is? It's mathematically impossible to consistently trade successfully an 80 vol asset. That's number one. Number two, because most assets aren't even close to an 80 vol asset. All right. So Bitcoin's an 80 vol asset. It is like riding the wildest buck or the wildest bull out there. You can stay on it, but only for a few seconds. It's not going to happen. You'll regard that few seconds you stayed on as skill, but it's not skill. You can't trade consistently well an 80 vol asset. That's reason number one. Reason number two, 85%, guys, of all of Bitcoin's gains, all of them, Bitcoin is the best performing asset the world has ever encountered. It has the number one record by a long shot in every conceivable category, by every metric you can measure. 5-year, 3-year, 2-year, 1 year, 10-year, 15-year. There is nothing close to Bitcoin's record. All right? It's the best performing item the world has ever had access to. I lost my thought where I was going with this. I always do this. I go too far out from the point. But anyway, it's the best performing asset in the world. But yet it's an 80 vol asset. 85% of all of those gains, that's where I was going with this. Being the best performing asset in the history of the world, 85% of all of that amazing performance comes between 10 and 13 days every single year. I am going to repeat this. This is something, if you have something close to you to write down or jot down, you should do this right here. 85% of all of Bitcoin's gains come over a random 10 to 13 days every single year. These days are random. They have no order. Do you understand? If you miss the 10 best days of Bitcoin, you're negative. Do you understand me? If you miss the 10 best days, the best performing asset the world has ever known, you're negative. Think about this. You could hold Bitcoin all year and miss the best 10 and you're negative. This is the case for the past 15 years. How do you trade that? You can't. I've done the mathematical models on this. I've done the back testing. And guys, let me just tell you this. With 4 decades of trading experience, amassing an amount of wealth doing that most people will probably never have access to. If I won't do it, then I know the vast majority of you shouldn't do it. I can trade anything else on planet Earth, but I'm not going to trade that. I might get lucky. I might even have a decent winning streak, but I know that's not gains. That's just loans. And when Bitcoin's 80 vol nature, and when Bitcoin's 10 to 13 day a year nature wakes up and comes from me, it's coming to take back all of what doesn't belong to me. You see, I can luck into gains over a few months, even a year or two. But I know if I keep doing it, I am doomed. The math will catch up to me. And if it will catch up to me, I know it will catch up to you. The other thing I'll mention about this timing thing, that everyone thinks that they have the prowess to do this. How do you know where the top is anyway? What if you think the top on this cycle is 150,000? And you say, you know what, Oliver, at 150,000, I'm going to sell a big portion of my stack. I'm going to put the cash to the sidelines, and I'm going to wait for the next drop and put that in, and I'm going to wind up with more Bitcoin than I would have if I could just hold through the decline and continue to dollar cost average. What if it goes to 500,000? Now what? Now what do you do? And then what if the next drop is from 5,000 to 300? I guarantee you, you don't take it and go back in at 300. I guarantee you, because once you exit with that money for a gain, it is psychologically nearly impossible to put it back in at a higher price. Most people don't have the psychological fortitude to do that. Most people will not suffer the feeling of being suckered. So they'll stay out. This is why many of your Bitcoin OGs have no Bitcoin today. They sold at $5 when they got it at 5 cents, feeling like a freaking hero. I would have done the same thing, to be honest with you. And now that when it went to $50, when they sold at 5 and it went to 50, their attitude was, there's no way I'm buying that at $50. I bought it at 5 cents. Get out of here. And now it's at 5,000. There's no way I'm buying it at 5,000 when I bought it at 5 cents. There's no way I'm buying it at 50,000 and I bought it at 5 cents. There are people today that sold out of Bitcoin in the last cycle. They were waiting for Bitcoin 10,000 to go back in. It never came. Then it rocketed to 30. Then they said, well, I'm waiting for it to come back to 10,000 still. Then it went to 40,000. Then maybe they raised their price. Well, I'll wait for 20,000. Then it went to 50,000. Then they said, well, you know what? I'll wait for it to come back to 30,000. Then it went to 60,000. Do you know the number of stories of people that wind up letting freedom go and never getting it back again? That the number of stories overwhelmingly outnumber by an exponential amount those that timed it perfectly at the top and had the money 18 months later to go back in. You don't know where the top is. Nobody does. Everyone in the past, guys, you can look at the forums over the past 15 years. They're all Bitcoin-less. They had 10,000, 50,000, 40,000 Bitcoin. They have 0 Bitcoin today because of this very thing. Selling when it's high, when they thought it was high. Bitcoin going higher, then crashing, but the crash is nowhere near where they sold. They sold out at $5 because they bought it at 5 cents. But it went to 50 and crashed back down to 15. 15 is nowhere near $5 where they sold it, and they still don't go in at 15. And they're out of it forever. And this is what's turned many of your old Bitcoin OGs into shitcoiners, because feeling dejected and having lost their opportunity with Bitcoin, they now go to something else that their little bit of profit can get a lot of. Well, maybe this is the next opportunity for me. Maybe this is the next Bitcoin. There are the numbers of shitcoiners today that had tens of thousands of Bitcoin in the past. It's astounding. And it's astounding because of this very thing that I'm explaining to you right now. We don't know where the top is. I don't pi indicator, this strategy has predicted all of Bitcoin's tops over the last 3 cycles. Bullshit. The time you try it, I promise you, it won't work. It always happens. You'll find something that on paper has worked every single time. And when you do it, it won't work. I know some of you have been there. I'm not the only one. The other thing, let's say you got lucky. Let's say you followed one of these BS indicators. Oh, this is the top. It's the pi indicator. It's the this and the that, the da, 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 da. And you sell the top by luck. Who says that you're going to know where the bottom is? Do you know how many people are still waiting for $10,000 Bitcoin today? They thought they knew where the bottom was, 10,000. Some people thought the bottom was 3,000 last cycle. Some people thought the bottom was 12,000. Because many of these timers thought the bottom was 3,000, 10,000, 12,000, and it never got there, they started shorting the rallies, and they're still shorting the rallies. Dejected, depressed. I don't care what they show online. I don't care how confident they seem. Inside, all of them are dejected. They got the 3 Ds, right? Dejected, depressed, disappointed. And they're trying to get back at Bitcoin by shorting into strength. All of my career, I taught traders, you short weakness, you don't short strength. They're shorting into strength, getting decimated. Their faces are getting melted off. Why? Because inside they feel dejected, depressed, and disappointed by Bitcoin because it didn't go down to the level they thought it should go down to, 10,000, 12,000, 3,000. So how do you know that you're going to be able to determine where should you start? You got lucky and sold the top, but where should you start? You see, something psychologically happens to a player once they realize the game. Once they put the cash in their pocket, they become defensive. You see, they're not as defensive if it's inside of the item, but when they take it out of the item, it becomes something that they need to protect now. So now putting that back in becomes a higher risk than it really is just leaving it there. You don't want to lose it. I made 50,000 on this run up. I don't want to lose it by picking the wrong point to go in. So they're careful. They're extra careful. Maybe it's going to be lower. Maybe it's going to drop more. I don't want to lose my $50,000 game. It starts to become a guessing game, a fear-based approach. It's wrong. You're not going to know where the bottom is. And let's say, not only did you get lucky selling near the top, you also got lucky by penning the bottom. Let's say this cycle, you killed it. You got lucky twice. Who says 18 months, 12 months, 16 months, 18 months later, when it's time to get back in, you still have every single penny sitting, waiting to go back in? Think about this, guys. How many of you realistically are not going to touch the gain you pulled out? Come on. I know you. I know market players for 4 decades. I know you're not going to have the money. I know you're going to fuck it up. You're going to take the gain you pulled out and go into some shit coin or try something else. That money is going to burn a freaking hole in your pocket. And when it's time to really go back into freedom again, you're not even going to have a pittance of what you pulled out of it. You will have lost it, used it on something, bought a car. Your wife would have convinced you to put a down payment on the house with it, taken a vacation, and now the bottom is here, which you luckily penned again. And you now don't have the amount that you pulled out. Or you have the amount, but you can't because now it's time for your daughter to graduate and you need the money for graduation. Or life intervenes some way, your mother's sick, or whatever it is. If it was in, it wouldn't be an issue because it's in, it's not there. But because it's in your pocket, because it's in your bank account, life comes after what you're holding on the side. Do you know that? Hasn't that really happened to you? That once you pull something out of something and you put it on the side, that's when life says, oh, really? He's got something on the side? And it starts to descend on you. Your uncle needs this. Your mother needs that. Your kids need that. Your wife just crashed the car. Life starts coming after you. You're not going to have the same amount that you pulled out. You're not going to pen the top. You're not going to pen the bottom. You're going to fuck this up. I am telling you. That's the worst approach, trying to time the tops and the bottoms. And I know all of you think that you're some freaking magical trader that has greater skill than 99% of all the professional traders out there, and they get wrecked trading Bitcoin. I know you think you're special, but I'm here to tell you, I'm sorry, you're not special.